Welcome back. And now I have here Ifeyiwa Omesiete. Now, she is a certified nutritionist with a BSc in nutritional sciences from the University of Minnesota, Twin Cities, USA. Now, she consults at various hospitals for children of all ages, and she treats medical and dietary ailments. Through her social media platform, she educates and shares her personal experiences on how to live in the modern world while raising healthy and well-nourished children. Now, today we're going to be talking about something special, special children as well, the role of nutrition in children with developmental disorders. Now, lots of people don't, if you have healthy children that are fine, you probably don't think about this much. But for people who face this challenge, it can be pretty tough,
Yes.
not understanding. So first thing, I mean, when I saw this topic, I said to myself, I didn't know that children with developmental disorders required a special type of nutrition or diet. So talk to us about that.
So just like you mentioned, a lot of people don't think about that or don't consider it, but a lot of children who have special needs require special nutrition, just as, you know, the name implies. So it could be from more calories, you know, a diet that's more focused on more proteins, a diet that's more focused on more fats, dependent on the need of the child or the diagnosis, yes.
Yeah. So, so when you say developmental disorders, because sometimes it just looks like big English, how do you define that in a child?
So a developmental disorder basically means that if you look at the average development and milestones of a child, they're not meeting those targets. So it could be something as simple as speaking. It could be being able to concentrate at a particular age. It could even be being able to use their arms and legs, typically the way that a child should. Crawling, learning how to walk, sitting upright, holding their head. A lot of things that we take for granted. Some people actually are praying that their children will be able to attain these heights at whatever age they get to. So understanding that nutrition plays a major role, because when people think about nutrition, they just think about it in terms of, you know, what I eat and whether it's good for me or whether it's not good for me, healthy or unhealthy. But for these children, it's more about how much of the nutrients are they getting to be able to aid them get to those milestones at the times at which they get to.
Right. Okay, so let's talk about how one focuses on the child themselves. So if I'm a parent and I'm looking at a child and I'm saying, maybe I discover, or how do you discover that this child has developmental disorder, and then you'll be able to eventually do that connection between what the child needs in terms of diet for maybe whatever particular delay that there is in that.
So sometimes this rubs people the wrong way, but I always like to say, make a decision early and come out of denial. In this part of the world, a lot of the struggles that we're facing, especially with these children, is the parents stay in denial or the caregivers stay in denial, believing that, oh, it's spiritual or this is not the case, they'll grow out of it. When you identify, like I mentioned, when you identify that a child hasn't attained a certain milestone within a certain age bracket, it's time to start getting professional help as a parent. Now, in getting the professional help, in health, it's a multidisciplinary approach. So no one person can solve all your issues. There's the nutritional aspect, there's the medical aspect, there's the psychological aspect. So getting the kind of help that you need for that child helps you to determine, okay, here's a connection, here is the relationship, here's what I need to do to help my child get to where they need to go.
So if we're going deeper and we're saying, okay, let's talk specifics.
Yeah.
A child hasn't been able to, is not speaking as and when due, for instance.
Yes.
Or you look at the child, this child should at least be saying a few words by now. What do you then do at that point? Do you think about maybe something to do with the brain or something to do with the mouth or whatever it is? What do you start thinking about in terms of nutrition?
Okay, so when you think about, for example, a child who's having speech delay, it's one of two things. Either there is a disconnect between the brain and the sensors that produce sound and communication, or there's an obstruction. If it's an obstruction, then either surgical or a simple procedure can help resolve that. But if it's a brain issue, then you begin to consider how much nutrients is that person getting to be able to translate to give the brain the development it needs. There's been a lot of research and studies that come out between the gut and the brain connection. So whatever you eat has to eventually produce nutrients that it's absorbed in the body and reaches all the organs of the body, and the brain is an organ. So if you don't give the body the right nutrients it needs, if you're not getting important elements in your food all the time, then that connection isn't made. And when it's not made on time, especially for children, so children have multiple synapses. So if you think about, let's say, a puzzle, for example, and in a puzzle you have 1,000 pieces. Now for a child who is growing, those puzzle sizes decrease over time,
right,
because you're building memory. So if you don't help that child build that memory, and the only way to do that is getting the nutrients you need. So a lot of our vitamins, a lot of our minerals serve as precursors for that connection to happen and that memory to be built.
So even in general, even for regular healthy children, this looks like it's something that's important.
Exactly.
Because it's not like we've seen in many reports and stats where they say that maybe children in particular areas in Africa,
yes,
because they don't have access to certain diets, it also delays their learning and
exactly,
other things like that.
Exactly.
So is that also the case?
Yes, that's also the case. So that's why in the beginning I mentioned that children who have special needs require special nutrition.
Right.
There's just, you're going a step higher. So doing the right thing in terms of nutrition for any child is paramount. But for these particular children, there's specific things that you need to focus on to be able to get them to attain those milestones that they need to get to.
Wow, that's amazing. I hope that someone is listening now and at least they're learning something, and it's going to be causing some changes in your home as well, and focusing on the kids and what they actually need. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
This morning.